Last week, a 66-year-old woman sat across from me, perfect hair, careful makeup, a life that looked stable from the outside. She held her purse like it was the only solid thing left in the room, stared at the floor, and whispered, "I feel like I'm disappearing inside this relationship." Not because he was screaming at her, not because he hit her, but because day by day she kept trading pieces of her peace for the comfort of saying she wasn't alone. And I need you to hear this with your whole body. At your age, losing peace is not romance. It's risk. Because after 60, you're not playing with feelings the way you did at 25. You're protecting your health, your home, your money, your routines, your dignity, everything you spent decades building. So let's set this straight before you start doubting yourself. You're not too old for love, and you're not too picky for wanting respect. What's really happening is you're finally awake enough to recognize the difference between companionship and consumption. This video isn't anti-love, it's anti-self-betrayal. Today I'm going to give you 5 brutal reasons why, as a senior woman over 60, you may be far better off never having a boyfriend again. And when we get to reason number 5, I'm going to show you the psychological trap that keeps smart women tied to draining men until they can't recognize themselves. Once you see it, you won't unsee it. Pay extra attention to reasons 3 and 4. Those are the moments most women go quiet. Because I've sat across from women your age, widows, divorced, never married, who all said the same sentence: "If I had known earlier." And I'm telling you now, you're not here to be anyone's nurse, purse, or emotional landfill. Reason 1 is going to sound simple at first, almost harmless, but it's one of the most common ways senior women get emotionally reduced without realizing it. The boyfriend role keeps you emotionally small, because the word boyfriend is a young word. It sounds light, it sounds playful, it sounds like weekend plans and cute texts and keeping it casual. But you are not living a casual life anymore. Your heart has lived through wars, maybe not on a battlefield, but through divorce, widowhood, betrayal, illness, caregiving, raising children, losing people you loved, rebuilding yourself when no one clapped for you. You've earned depth. You've earned seriousness. You've earned the right to be fully seen. And yet, a lot of men after 60 still want the boyfriend setup because it gives them a loophole. It lets them receive the benefits of a committed woman, your loyalty, your emotional availability, your warmth, your care, without stepping into the responsibility of a true partner. I once worked with a woman in her late 60s. Let's call her Janine. She was intelligent, financially stable, emotionally thoughtful. She met a man who insisted on one thing: "Don't call me your partner. That makes me feel old. I'm your boyfriend." On the surface, it sounded charming, even sweet, like he still had youthful energy. But over time, a pattern appeared so clearly it almost hurt to watch. Every time Janine asked for clarity about the future, about boundaries, about what they were building, he would smile and say, "Why ruin a good thing, and let's just enjoy what we have?" That sentence is not romance. It's avoidance dressed up as charm, because staying a boyfriend forever meant no growth, no accountability, no real commitment, just the comfortable parts. Janine slowly began shrinking herself to fit his comfort. She stopped bringing up her fears about aging, her concerns about money, her desire for deeper spiritual connection. When she tried, he would say she was being heavy, that she was overthinking, that she was killing the mood. And this is the brutal truth. Many men want the light version of you, not the full woman you have become. They want you fun, easy, agreeable, low maintenance, because the full version of you comes with wisdom, standards, and questions they don't want to answer. The boyfriend label makes it easier for them to keep you there, smiling on the surface, while your deeper self goes hungry. So let me ask you something, gently but directly. In your last relationship, did you feel you could bring your full self, or only the easy version? And now we go practical, because the next reason isn't just emotional, it's dangerous. It's about your safety, your energy, and your stability. Reason 2 is where this stops being a relationship conversation and starts being a survival conversation, because after 60, your life runs on a different currency. You can always earn more money, but you cannot easily earn back your energy, your health, or your peace once they've been drained. And that's why I'm going to say this plainly. After 60, your energy is not cheap. Every choice you make has a cost, and the older you get, the more expensive the wrong choices become. A boyfriend at this stage can feel like a blessing at first. Someone to talk to, someone to laugh with, someone who makes the house feel less quiet. But I've watched this pattern unfold so many times it's almost predictable. Slowly, quietly, the relationship turns into a job. Not a job with a paycheck, not a job with benefits, but a job where you're expected to be emotionally available on demand, even when your body needs rest and your nervous system needs calm. I remember a woman I worked with, let's call her Teresa. She met a man in his 70s who seemed charming, attentive, grateful. In the beginning, it felt sweet. Long phone calls, gentle compliments, that warm feeling of being chosen again. Then the calls started coming later. 10 p.m. became midnight, midnight became 2 a.m. And suddenly Teresa was waking up to her phone buzzing like an emergency alarm. It wasn't an emergency, it was him spiraling. He couldn't sleep. He needed reassurance. He wanted to unload his anger about his ex-wife, his resentment toward his adult children, his fear about his health, his regrets about his past. And Teresa, being a good woman with a good heart, kept picking up because she didn't want to feel cruel. She didn't want to be the reason he suffered. She didn't want to abandon someone who sounded lonely. But here's what happened. Her days started feeling heavy before they even began. Her body was tired, not from age, but from emotional overwork. Her mood shifted, her appetite changed, her peace became conditional on whether he was having a good day. That's not companionship, that's caretaking disguised as love. So I asked her one question that cut through everything. After you talk to him, do you feel lighter or heavier? She went silent. And then she cried, because she finally admitted what her body had been saying the whole time. Always heavier. And we haven't even touched the physical reality. Dating after 60 can introduce real safety risks, especially when it starts through apps, strangers, unfamiliar locations, and fast trust. Your recovery is slower, your vulnerability is higher. A situation you could brush off at 30 can leave consequences at 60 that linger for months. This isn't paranoia, this is practical wisdom. So ask yourself honestly, does this relationship bring you more calm or more pressure, more stability or more anxiety, more safety or more risk? Reason 3 is the one that almost nobody talks about because it doesn't sound dramatic, and it doesn't show up like a fight. It shows up like a quiet narrowing of your life. And the truth is, after 60, you're not just getting older, you're ripening. You are finally becoming the woman you were always meant to be, not the woman you had to be to survive marriages, raise children, hold a household together, keep everyone else stable. This is the season where many women begin to return to themselves. You start reading again. You start asking deeper questions. You explore spirituality, psychology, healing, the parts of your story you never had time to look at. You begin integrating pieces of yourself that were cut off for decades. Jung would call this individuation, the slow, sacred process of becoming whole. But here's where the danger enters, and it often comes disguised as love. You see, you meet a man who likes you as long as you stay familiar, as long as you stay convenient, as long as you don't change too much. I remember one woman who came to me after leaving a long marriage. For the first time in years, she felt free. She joined a book club, started therapy, began exploring the wounds she'd carried since childhood, and something inside her softened and strengthened at the same time. Then she met a man who loved the early version of her growth, the shiny version. He loved that she was working on herself because it sounded inspiring. But when her growth became real, when she started setting boundaries, asking for emotional maturity, speaking honestly about what she needed, his tone shifted. He would say, "You used to be so easygoing." He'd laugh and call her too deep, or accuse her of overthinking. He didn't say, "I'm scared you're outgrowing me." He didn't say, "I don't know how to meet you there." Instead, he tried to pull her back into the version of herself that was easier for him to handle. And this is where the Jungian layer matters. The persona is the edited self, the socially acceptable self, the agreeable self, the self that keeps relationships smooth. Individuation is when you stop living as an edit. You stop trimming your truth so other people can stay comfortable. You stop smoothing your edges just to keep someone close. But when you're with an emotionally underdeveloped man, you unconsciously start editing yourself again. You stop sharing what you're learning because it leads to arguments. You skip the events you enjoy because he feels left out. You soften your boundaries because he gets moody. You freeze your growth at the level of his comfort. And over time, your soul starts feeling cramped inside your own life. So here's the question I want you to sit with, without rushing to answer it. If you never had a boyfriend again, how much could you grow? What parts of you would finally have room to breathe? And reason number 4 is where this becomes painfully practical, because it's not only your growth that gets limited, it's your money, your time, and the daily structure of the life you worked so hard to build, quietly dismantled piece by piece. Reason 4 is where a lot of women get blindsided, because the cost of having a boyfriend after 60 rarely shows up like a big warning sign. It shows up quietly in small, harmless compromises that add up until your life doesn't feel like yours anymore. And I need you to understand this. Nothing is truly free at this stage. Not your time, not your sleep, not your routines, not your nervous system, and certainly not your money. By 60, you've already paid a high emotional price through life: work, caregiving, marriage, children, loss. You know that every yes is also a no to something else. But when a boyfriend enters the picture, many women underestimate how many little payments start getting withdrawn from them every single day. It begins with the small expenses, the dinners, the weekend outings, the gifts, the gas, the rides, the subtle pressure to keep things pleasant. Then the real costs appear, and they don't always look like money. They look like you rearranging your schedule around his moods and needs. They look like you staying up later than your body wants because he wants to talk at night. They look like you eating at times that disrupt your health because he doesn't like early dinners. They look like you traveling when your body needs rest because you don't want to seem difficult. They look like you letting your routines soften, then break, then disappear. Because romance starts demanding flexibility your body can't afford the way it once could. And here's the part I've heard too many times, usually spoken with a nervous laugh. He moved in temporarily just until he finds a place. Temporary becomes a month, then 3 months, then a year. And suddenly it's been 5 years and he's still there, contributing little, taking up space, expecting comfort, while you're the one paying more of the bills, doing more of the emotional labor, and swallowing resentment because you feel guilty for wanting your own home back. That guilt is a trap. It convinces you that protecting your stability is mean, when the truth is, you didn't spend decades building a safe life just to subsidize a man's convenience. And it's not only the financial cost, it's what I call the emotional budget. You only have so much emotional energy each day. You only have so many calm mornings, so many steady evenings, so many peaceful hours before your body starts paying interest in the form of stress, insomnia, anxiety, and exhaustion. So hear me clearly, your peace of mind is your greatest currency. Everything you allow into your life now should protect it, not drain it. If a relationship consistently leaves you depleted, tense, behind on your own needs, that relationship is not a romance, it's an expense. And now we come to reason number 5, the deepest one of all, the psychological trap that explains why so many women accept crumbs and call it love. Once you see it, you'll understand exactly why walking away can be the most loving decision you ever make for yourself. Reason 5 is the deepest one because it doesn't just explain why a relationship feels draining, it explains why you stayed even after you knew it was draining. This is the psychological trap that keeps senior women tied to men who give them almost nothing. And it works because it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like hope. It feels like being patient. It feels like maybe he just needs time. But under the surface, it's fear wearing the mask of loyalty. Here's the brutal truth most people won't say out loud. Some men assume that after 60 you'll tolerate more and demand less. Not because you're weak, but because they believe you're afraid. They believe you're afraid of being alone, afraid of starting over, afraid that this is your last chance to be loved. And when a man thinks you're afraid, he doesn't have to show up fully. He can offer just enough to keep you attached, just enough warmth to restart your hope, just enough attention to quiet the panic, just enough affection to make you doubt your own standards. This is where the trap begins. Fear turns into dependency so slowly you barely notice it. At first, you're simply enjoying connection. Then your nervous system starts using him as an antidote to loneliness. Then your self-worth quietly ties itself to whether he calls, whether he texts, whether he chooses you today. And once that happens, every moment of distance feels like withdrawal. You don't just miss him, you start questioning yourself. You start bargaining with your dignity. You start accepting inconsistency because your brain labels inconsistency as normal as long as there are occasional moments of comfort. And the most dangerous part is how the crumbs start feeling like a meal. A compliment becomes proof he cares. A late-night call becomes intimacy. A rare weekend together becomes progress. And because you want it to be real, you begin interpreting the bare minimum as meaning, because meaning is easier than admitting the truth. He's giving you leftovers, not love. I remember a woman who sat across from me and described a man she'd been seeing for years. He had told her directly more than once, "I'm not committing to anything serious." He wasn't cruel about it. He was calm, almost casual, like he was discussing the weather. And still she stayed. She kept showing up. She kept hoping time would soften him, that her steadiness would inspire him, that her devotion would awaken something in him. When I asked her why, she finally said the sentence that reveals the trap. "I'm scared that if I leave, I'll never have anyone again." Not "I love him deeply." Not "he meets me emotionally." Not "we build a life together." The foundation was fear. Fear of silence, fear of starting over, fear of watching other people be paired off while she sits alone with her evenings. And when fear is the foundation, you will accept almost anything as long as it delays the loneliness. So let me give you the line that changes everything, if you're brave enough to let it land. What if your purpose in this season is not to be chosen by a man, but to finally choose yourself? What if the real love story now is the one where you stop auditioning for affection and start protecting your soul? What if you stop calling crumbs good enough and decide that sacred love is the only kind you'll make room for? Whether it comes through a mature partner, deep friendships, community, or the peace of your own company, because you deserve love that meets you at the level of your dignity. Anything less isn't romance, it's a slow, quiet betrayal. The boyfriend script can quietly keep a woman emotionally small because it rewards easy and punishes depth. Peace is the currency after 60, and anything that spends it carelessly is too expensive. Growth should never be frozen to match someone else's comfort, because a love that needs you smaller is not love, it's control with better manners. Hidden costs leak into money, routine, health, and legacy, and small conveniences can become permanent erosion. And sacred love is not leftover attention. Crumbs are not a meal just because hunger makes them feel holy. At this age, the goal is not to build a fortress and call it independence. The goal is a gate, a life with an entrance that has standards, a heart that stays tender without staying available to whoever shows up empty-handed. So here's the principle that holds all 5 reasons together. A man should be a bonus, not a lifeline. Now I want you to do one thing after this video. Sit with yourself, no phone, no noise, and ask one honest question. If I loved myself the way I wish a man would love me, what would I stop tolerating today? Let that answer tell you the truth. And if you think another woman you love needs to hear this, your sister, your mother, your friend, share it with her. Not to scare her, but to protect her. If you want more content like this that helps you make clearer, safer choices in this season of life, you can like the video and subscribe. And if you're choosing peace first, write PEACE in the comments.